Hey there folks! So today we're going to be carving Santas looking like this. So to do that, I use a 1.5 inch block that I cut on a corner, and it's 4 inches tall. And I make them using this stencil. Now to trace the design, I just trace out all the gaps in the lines. And if you're thinking, gosh, that Santa looks very familiar, well, that's because it's based on one of Dalo Woodcarver's designs. So he was very gracious to let me use one of his designs to design a stencil for myself, and I'm sharing it with you guys. And it's based on one of his Santas that he made about a year ago. There's some small variations because he carves his on a square block, whereas this one is carved on a corner. But if you really want to see what an actual woodcarver is capable of, then go ahead and check out his channel, and I'll leave a link in the description. So the only tricky thing about this design is this, the hat that comes over and the ball. So on half of the design, you're going to trace out the beard and the cheek right here. And then when you do the other half, you're going to leave that part of the beard out so you can have the ball in there. So I'll show you what I mean when I get there. So first I like to match it up on the top. So right here, before I trace inward right here, I use this gap right there, and that's where the hat kind of comes over. Okay, so the only thing that wasn't able to fit on there was the ball, so that one you'll still have to draw it by hand. So I like to make it go all the way up to the beard and come over like this. So you can have a higher ball, you can have a lower ball, put it wherever it is that you want. But I figured I did one on the right side, we'll do one on the left side this time. Okay, so let's start carving. Okay, so the first thing that I do to carve this figure is do the profile. So I like to start on the side that doesn't have the ball and trace up the side there. Okay, let's do the other side. Okay, so before you take this swipe up here, make sure you make a stop cut just beneath that ball, otherwise you'll take the entirety of the ball with you. Right, so let me show you something to do right here before you keep on going. So these lines, they seem like they should intuitively just keep going upward like that, but if you do that, then you're going to have what happened to me over here, and like you're going to have this really weird shoulder in here. So instead, what you do is you draw the lines with a little bit of a curve and then draw them straight back, likewise right here. And that gives you, on this guy I actually did it, and then you'll see that the lines of the arms are much more reasonable, and it comes out looking like an actual well-proportioned figure. So same thing on this side. This guy, we'll just take the shoulder up to there, so there won't really be any beard beneath the ball on this side. Okay. Alright, so after we have done all this stuff right here, now we're just going to take a big swipe off the middle right here. And I like to go up until the edges of the nose. Luckily there's not much that we're erasing by doing this. Most of the lines are just horizontal, or they connect pretty easily. Right, so now just reconnect all the lines. I think that's it. Okay. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to take our V tool. Oh, sorry, I did not reconnect all the lines. There's the folder bat hat. Okay, so we're going to take our V tool and we're going to outline the majority of these lines. So let's go ahead and start at the hat. If you don't want to use your V-tool for this, you can jump straight to the knife. We do have to score everything anyway, but I find that the V-tool gives the knife a good place to sit. I'm not going to do the nose. I'm gonna just go straight to the knife on that one. Okay, and right here we just follow that line backward. Awesome. Okay, so, as promised, just come along with your knife and score pretty much everything. So, be careful that that knife doesn't slip on you. I've had a lot of instances, especially right here, when I get to this point, where the knife tends to go like this. And that's how I tore this glove right here. So when that happens, either just let the knife stop about right here, or don't apply as much force, or, you know, just be smart about it. And definitely don't put any fingers underneath it. And if you're not wearing a glove, well, you should be wearing a glove. Really like these gloves. These are the No Cry gloves, and they have reinforced fingers, especially on the middle finger, index, and your thumb, which, interestingly enough, I've never actually cut into. It's always been either my ring finger or my pinky finger, and those are not reinforced. But anyway. Okay, so for the nose, you can see these two have two slightly different sized noses, and I'm not sure why that is, but I want a big fat nose, so I'm going to go just outside the line. I'm not going to cut on the line. I'm going to go just outside the line. And trace it like that. Okay. And just score everything else. And having those stencils are pretty handy. You know, like, you don't really spend too much time drawing, which is kind of nice. And you also don't need to worry about things being symmetrical or anything, because they already are. And if you want a different mustache on this, you know, feel free to. There's a lot of space there for you to do whatever you please. You know, gosh, you could definitely do some bigger mustache with some curls at the sides or something like that. Okay, so before I get too far along, I'm going to start cutting out the pieces of the face. So this really turns into a relief carving sort of project. Because the Santa already is on a corner, you don't need to shave off these pieces on the sides over here. So really it's just about giving the character some depth now. So we'll start with the hat. First, this guy needs to be brought back a little bit. Okay. Okay, so the first cut that we're going to do is the hat over here. We're just going to separate the hat from the brim. Okay, and then tuck the brim underneath that overlap with the hat. Let's just keep on shaving away until the size and shape of that hat makes sense. And I like to round over all the way. And this guy may need a little bit more. Okay, so now we're going to get to the actual face. So all we're going to do is tuck the face pieces underneath all the clothing and the nose. So just like this, all around. Tuck the nose underneath the brim. Nice big fat round nose. And the same thing on the other side. Let's tuck the mustache underneath the nose. In some cases, you gotta come back and remove a little bit more material. So that's looking okay. Let's go ahead and do the shape of the ball a little bit. Let's do the beard. So the mustache is going to sit on top of the beard. So we take the beard and undercut it. It's just like I said, kind of like a relief cut. Alright, so this let's go ahead and round over the nose a little bit, just to give it a little bit more realisticness, so it doesn't have those jagged edges. We're going to do that to pretty much the entire carving as well, so it's not just the nose. Okay. Try to get that side of the face like that, nice and round. You have to remove a little bit more material. And the same with the mustache and the beard. Try to give it a little bit of roundness. That's all it takes. Let's work on this side. Right there. So what's going on there? Okay. Great. Okay, so now let's move on to pretty much from the beard down as well. Right? If we finish up this part before we head on down though. And we'll come back to the mustache and the beard in a little bit. Right. But we want to sort of get that general shape at the bottom as well. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to score all these pieces. The V-tool is great because now I know that the knife, all I need to do is get it into that middle section right there, the lowest part of that trough. Whereas if I just had a line, I really had to pay attention. Now, I have the shape, I could just almost mindlessly trace it with my knife. So it took me for the longest time to realize the way to do this cut, and that is using your left thumb. You see I'm putting the knife there, but guiding it with my left thumb. And in most cases, the pressure that I'm exerting is only with my left thumb. That way, the knife doesn't slip any further than what my left thumb can push. But that's not always the case. So like in that case, I was solely using my right hand for pressure. And that's when it's most dangerous, when the knife can actually slip. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start shaping everything. I'm going to start off with the sleeves. So see the beard kind of tucks in right there. So Dalu's carving actually has mittens that the Santa has. I had the hardest time recreating those mittens, and each time they'd look just utterly awful. So I decided to not do them. If you're good at mittens and you want to include them, feel free. There's plenty of space there to have two overlapping mittens like that. But me and mittens apparently don't work together. Okay, and remember to think about which pieces are being tucked underneath which ones. So this will be the upper sleeve, and then this will be the kind of like the cuff area. So you want the cuff to be the one that's most exposed. So it makes sense to have the sleeve tucked underneath that one. And I want the hands to kind of come out from inside the cuffs. So there we go, and I want this, the center part of the robe, to be underneath all of that. Let's make sure we work on this side too. So no matter how deep you make these lines, they almost get erased after you oil them. So you can almost see here, like, as the oil soaks in, a lot of those lines just tend to disappear. And when you paint them, gosh, they're almost invisible. And besides, that's not what people are actually looking at after you paint them. And so there's other stuff that folks are looking for. Really, the realism, the smoothness of the lines. So the depth of these stop cuts are not going to make a difference on your finished product. So I'm trying to say is make sure that you have a lot of depth in your characters. And don't worry about going too deep. Okay, and now we're going to start rounding over these sections. Okay, so take off some more material there. Okay, likewise over here. Flat part is probably the toughest part of this because it's hard to manage the contour that it needs to have. It needs to tuck in under everything, but it also needs to have enough width that it's believable as a robe. I'm just shaving the surface of this to get rid of all those fuzzies. Okay, so let's round over these hands. And round over the beard as well. Okay, and the mustache. Get rid of all those fuzzies. There's not much separation here, so be careful. You're going to have to take off small slivers at a time. We're practically done. So now it's just a matter of cleaning up the rest of the carving like this. Getting rid of any sharp, non-believable edges. Really good brushing to make sure that you don't miss any of that stuff, you don't get confused. Okay, let's go back to these cuffs. Okay, let's see if we can fix this little section right here. See what's going on. Now all I'm doing is just kind of cleaning up the rest of the carving, taking off any of those original surface markings that I had, the fuzzy. And right here, a detail knife would be really good. Okay, and now we're gonna round over the robe. So just take your knife like that, just take off a sliver. And there you go. Just like that. Okay, same on the other side. See if we can do that, because in this case we have to take the knife like this. Scratch in there, so let's go ahead and take off another thin sliver right here. And there you have it. Let's give them some robe separation right here. You can even open it right here. There you go. And just separate that robe right there. And there you have it, folks. That is a corner Santa. Alright, and let me show you one final step. So the last thing I like to do is use one of these sanding pads, or just a foam sanding pad, with a pretty light grit. I'd say this is probably a 220, maybe even 320. And all I do is just sand the whole carving like this. And you don't have to worry about getting rid of any detail because of the light grit, and the foam kind of just takes off a light amount and gets rid of any of that roughness, especially down here where we didn't use our knife at all. Look at that. Anyway, for this one, just take it over with some boiled linseed oil, and then we'll paint it and put a screw eye on the top, and that's a nice little ornament to hang on the tree. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for watching.